I'm going to start with Paul Giochi, who's an advocate and a former Gillingham-based student. Paul, thank you.
Thank you. I hope I said your name. Giochi, it's all right. It's spelled different. It doesn't matter. We're all in the same boat. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I was diagnosed with dyslexia at Highland High School. It's known as Town of Lloyd, I guess, 845 area. I had Evelyn Whitebay as my teacher. She definitely, yes. Speak a little higher? Absolutely. Yes, so I'll step into this a little. Can you hear me now? All right, great. So like I was saying, I was diagnosed in Highland High School with dyslexia. My teacher is Miss Whitebay, Evelyn Whitebay, and she's helped me a lot with decoding dyslexia. I had many challenges. However, due to her help, I was eligible to play sports all year round. Joining the football team, track team, and wrestling team has helped me as well to be more organized with myself and at my workplace. Reading is everywhere, so we have to read for our safety guides, you know, if you need certain things and materials. So basically, I am here as well to get going on this to support my brother Hunter. He's as well dyslexic, and he's in the 4th grade. So I just want him to be comfortable, be confident in himself, and everyone else too that is younger than I am, to know that there is no challenge but your own self. You can only set a limit to yourself if you choose to, but other than that, you know, it's the choice is yours, and there are many professionals out there that have the challenges as we have, and we've just seen some of them that gladly came up and shared their life stories with dyslexia. So I think it is very important for parents, first off, to accept that they have a dyslexic child, and what is the next step? The next step is to how do I fix this, or how do we go about this? And luckily enough, the law has been passed for students to get accommodations in classrooms, and I'm very grateful for that. This is my 3rd year supporting this, and we'll continue to follow this up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paul. And next we're going to hear from Gail Katzman, yes, who's a parent. Gail?
Hi, I'm Gail Katzman. I'm a parent of a dyslexic child. My daughter's in 4th grade. We just found out last year she's dysgraphic and dyslexic. I've always known, but I always knew something was different about the way she learned to read and approach things. But what amazed me, and we're in the Albany School District, is that no one in her formal educational process had any idea what dyslexia is. Her elementary school teachers didn't recognize it, had no idea what was going on with her. The reading specialist didn't recognize it, had no idea what was going on with her. The social worker, school psychologist, principal, even the committee that we met with to request special accommodations, they don't know what it is. They don't know, they refuse to provide anything. But realistically, I don't know what they can provide. They don't seem to know what it is, and they don't seem to have the resources. So I'm not dyslexic. I was very surprised to learn that in the year 2018, this is the state of education, and this is the state of, dyslexia support. So it's been extremely disappointing. One person along the way told us, well, she should really have her eyes checked. Like, they don't understand it's in the brain, it's not in her eyes. And, I have to say we've moved her to private school, which has definitely been more accommodating, but they don't really know there either. So we really just could use a lot of attention in a lot of ways. I think teacher training, elementary teachers really have to be able to recognize it. If you're teaching a child to read, you have to be able to see that some children learn to read differently. And I can't, like I said, I'm just so surprised that in this day and age, we're not there yet. And thank you. One other comment, and maybe this is not for this forum, but it just seemed like the standards were really low. Like my daughter never qualified as someone needing extra help. She always did well enough on the tests, but she was struggling so much. So all these standardized tests, they were not picking it up at all. And I guess that's just what I have to say based on our experience. I'm very surprised by the school system and the experience we had. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. And next we will hear from Maggie Tyler, who's a student. Maggie? There you are. Welcome, Maggie.
So I'm going to talk really quickly about a special program in the school Kildonan, which is called EDGE. There's a longer name for, There's a longer name for EDGE, but really it just stands for Independent Projects. And I think it's a new generation of learning. And it's where kids get to go to a class or to do something that they really want to learn. For example, I want to become a musician songwriter, but writing songs, what does it have? It has writing in it, and I'm dyslexic, so it just makes it hard for me. So I have to advocate for myself and find people around the school to help me write songs and try to make it make sense to other people. And then I have to putting into music and making that all sound really pretty. And it's very hard, and I had to use a program called Pro Tools to record my music. But I had to look through the whole entire school and ask everybody, do you know how to use Pro Tools? And no one did, and it took me like 3 weeks to find someone who did. And I finally found someone, and I had to make their time worthy enough to help me do it, because I really want to accomplish my dream of being a musician. So it's like miniature college. You have to learn how to think on your own, how to solve problems on your own, how to think out of the box, which is a very hard skill to learn. But that's what EDGE does. It teaches you how to think differently than everyone else. And that's the good thing about dyslexia, is where you are really creative. So you already have that a little bit of advantage of getting out of the box and doing your own thing. And everyone who's in the EDGE project does multiple different things. One kid, he built a terrain park on our school campus. Another one is building a 1945 tractor from the ground up. I mean, you can accomplish anything you want, and I think it's a really good learning tool for everybody to know and to do. And I just want to get it out there and speak to the kids about EDGE and the teachers in Kildonan about it, and we will tell you more information about EDGE.
Thank you, Maggie. And next we're going to hear from Anna Benline. Anna? Come on down.
Hi, my name is Anna Benline. I'm a freshman at John Jay High School. As for preparation for this speech, I found some very interesting statistics. 20% of people have dyslexia. Just think about that for a second. 20%. That is 1 out of every 5 people. So imagine a classroom with your average 30 kids in the class. 6 of those students are struggling, unhelped, put in the extra reading classes, called stupid and lazy by teachers and peers. I was one of those students. Back in kindergarten, I remember writing my letters backwards, like B's and D's, which was a sign for most dyslexic students. Now, 3rd grade came around, and I was home waiting for my mom and dad to come home from parent-teacher conference. When my parents came home, they sat me down on the couch to talk. They told me I needed to be tested for dyslexia. First, I had no idea what this meant, but my parents were so amazing. My mom advocated for me, and my dad, also being dyslexic, really helped me go through this process. Since the school district does not test for dyslexia or have no real understanding, my parents set up an appointment with Diana King. I remember going to her house like it was yesterday. Every month I would go and do my intervention work. In the meantime, I would wake up at 6 o'clock with my mom, and we would do intervention work. I would come home from school, do my homework, and then I would finish my rest of my intervention work. School was a challenge for me. Most of my teachers didn't understand, and I was very stressed out. So imagine a 9-year-old explaining to adults and teachers how to understand a 504 accommodation plan. To properly perform it was very stressful. I like to end with a quote from Albert Einstein. But if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing that it's stupid. Teachers in our state are, in a sense, judging the students on something they need, or the students will forever feel stupid. So please help those who don't have a voice to speak up and get the proper testing they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. And next we're going to hear from Marion Waldman. Thank you, Marion.
Hi, everybody. Today is a really important day for us. This is a great day, Dyslexia Awareness Day. It's also Gotcha Day for my daughter and I, for our family. Anybody in the adoption community probably knows that that's the day that their child arrives. For us, 10 years today, a joyful but traumatized 2-year-old came into our lives and became forever in our heart. Our story. We're in the Albany School District. Our story begins when our daughter was in pre-K 4. We signed up for the school lottery in Albany. We didn't get any of our lottery choices, but fortunately we found a private school where our daughter thrives socially, maybe not academically, but socially. Even though she was only in pre-K 4, we were notified that they were going to have her start reading with the kindergartners. They felt she was socially mature. I had noticed some issues, memory, but they said that she's too young, and I agreed, pre-K 4. Kindergarten, we walk into the parent-teacher conference, and there's the quote-unquote remedial reading teacher. I said, why is the remedial reading teacher here? According to the school, she just needed a little boost. Couple of months, fast forward, kindergarten, and there's letters taped to the wall. There are numbers taped to the wall. She's not remembering anything. I know there's something wrong. I know there's other parents in the room. You know it. You're Googling, you're panicking, you're talking to people, but you got a great kid, and she's going to be okay. She'll read when she's ready. I finally requested, in kindergarten, I requested an evaluation, and I was told that it wasn't time. First grade was a nightmare. The other kids were reading chapter books. Our daughter still couldn't recognize letters or sounds. Homework was just, I regret the times we sat at the kitchen counter with her crying, how am I going to get through this? Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm going to just fast forward and say we finally got an evaluation when our daughter was going into 2nd grade after 3 years of asking for one. We tried to go in the lottery in our local school district, and we were informed that because she had a language disability, she was ineligible for the lottery. So we decided we had to keep her at the private school where she was thriving socially, but they didn't have services. We took her out of the county to a different way in reading center where she made the only progress she really could make in reading for the next 3 years. All she did was read from 3rd grade through 5th grade, no extracurricular activities. Our daughter read, no services in the school. Finally, in 5th grade, with all of our frustrations of lack of progress, we requested a private evaluation, and we got a diagnosis by a very wonderful neuropsychologist. The bottom line was she's severely dyslexic. She should probably be in a specialized school or be homeschooled. I went into a hole, our whole family did. What are we going to do? Or how are we going to afford this? I can't homeschool her. We drove to, there's Kevin. We drove to Kildonan, and Kevin said, why do you want your daughter to come here? I said, I want my daughter to be able to dream. She's smart. I want my daughter to read. I want you just to teach my daughter. We couldn't make it work for the school year. We immediately signed her up for camp. We didn't know how we would make that work. Since I know I'm out of time, I'll just end. In 6 weeks at Camp Dunneback, she went up 3 grade levels in decoding. Now, this is at Camp Dunneback at the Kildonan School, and just what I want to know is why do we have to make all of these sacrifices, go through all of these personal and financial hardships just so our kids can learn to read? The solutions are out there. We know there's multi-sensory structured reading programs, that there's teachers that are trained to deliver, not enough, but that there are some, and that we have the solutions, but they're not here, they're not in Albany, they're not around here. Anyway, it's our gotcha day, so it's a good day, and thank you.
Thank you, Marion. And next we will be hearing from Brenda Gibbs, who is a parent. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. I really appreciate that as I get set up. Actually prepared much longer comments than I really probably can deliver today, because I'm one of those people who has a time issue. I believe I can cram more into a smaller period of time than I can actually do. So I'm going to vary from my written comments. I've submitted the official ones here, but I'm going to share my story. I'm in a different situation, I think, than perhaps many parents here. I have children with dysgraphia only. And I just want to make that known that there are some children who only have dysgraphia and they don't have dyslexia too. I also recognize that many children with dyslexia have dysgraphia problems as well, and I'm not an expert in those issues. I only know what I see with mine with dysgraphia only, so I want to make it known that it is out there, because not many people know about dysgraphia at all. I mean, there's no TV commercials. There's no, hey, everybody, there's dysgraphia, be aware. I had no idea. In my first experience with dysgraphia, I actually missed it because I had no clue. My first problems with my kids were with my older child who had reading issues. Our school was using whole language disguised as balanced literacy, and there was very little phonics. So I had a child who said to me, I hate reading, I can't read, I'm stupid. So all my focus went on reading, because my understanding is you need to have a good reader by 3rd grade or your kids are going to really fall behind. And that's an argument for early intervention, by the way. So I taught phonics myself, took it as far as I could take it, and then I hired an area phonics expert from another school district who did intensive phonics with my child. And at the same time, I was getting comments from the school, your child isn't putting effort into the writing. And so to me, they wanted me to bring her in and shame her for lack of effort. I had no idea that dysgraphia even existed, and I thought, okay, my focus is on reading right now. After that, my second child came into the system, and automatically, it was evident to me there was a problem with writing. He hated to write, he refused to write. He was the child who made it known to everyone that writing was an issue for him, and he was acting out behavior-wise and making it known. And my school district said, no, he's average, he's just like all the other kids. And I went and got my own evaluations and found out that's not true. And then I had to fight to get them to recognize dysgraphia. The first comment I got was, well, when I had an outside neuropsychologist do a report, and I brought that in, and I'm thinking, naive me, they say, oh, this is what we do for dysgraphia. No. What I got was, well, that's a medical diagnosis. We have to see how it affects the education. And I said, well, wait a minute. I understand the legal requirement. You only have to consider the report, but let's use a little common sense. Writing is throughout the whole school day. How does it not affect a child's education. And then I had to fight for accommodations with teachers I would later learn, never read the reports because the school doesn't give it to them. So they're sitting across the table just hearing there's dysgraphia, but they don't get to see the report. They don't have any training. The school district does not have any proactive program to identify the kids. I'll wrap up quickly. And the teachers don't know about dysgraphia, and yet they're making judgments across the table about what accommodations are needed, whether my child is refusing to do things that my child is capable of, and then on top of it, issuing punishments when my child doesn't do those things, that they don't know enough to be able to judge whether my child's really refusing to do something that's not within the capability. So I hope, one more thing if I can add, I'm in the unique experience of having two different children with two different circumstances, one that let us all know that there's a problem, and one that I delayed getting an evaluation for, because I said to myself, what will they do for my child here who's complying and who's just getting by when they won't do anything for my kid who's making all this noise and telling everybody I have a problem? And I have to say, I regret that decision because now I've learned just what it does to the self-esteem of the children. And I would recommend to anybody who hasn't seen this to watch Journey into Dyslexia and count how many kids will tell you that they were suicidal. It is when you watch that, it really touches your heart. And you would have to say, we need to help these kids early. And I'm sorry I went over, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brenda. And Eileen Daly, you have Eileen? Welcome, Eileen. She's another student who's going to be telling us about things we need to know.
Hi, my name is Eileen Daly. Before I knew I had dyslexia, school was very difficult because I was behind on my reading. Letters were jumping up at me. B's and D's were switched around, same with P's and 9's. Homework was a terrible experience for me because I didn't understand what my teacher was teaching. Doing homework took me 2 to 3 hours because I couldn't do it, and I didn't want to do it. In first and second grade, I fell behind in reading. When I was finally diagnosed with dyslexia in second grade, I went to Kildonan for the summer and got my reading level back up. The one-on-one tutoring was super helpful. When I went to third grade, my teacher couldn't teach me anything. She wouldn't let me use the cursive that I learned at Kildonan, even though that is a way to help dyslexics spell better. She basically gave up on me, thinking I was hopeless. She finally started giving me second grade homework, saying that I would be fine, that I'm a nice girl, and this happened to every child. I was in a resource room and was supposed to get the Wilson program, and I had a resource teacher that's worked with me for multiple years. She helped me tremendously. Unfortunately, more and more kids were added to the resource room, and I had to stay after school to do one-on-one tutoring. In third grade, I stayed after school once or twice a week for extra help with my reading because I was still behind. I'd always liked to do it. I almost failed third grade. My mother threatened multiple times to pull me out of my school. I went to my friend's school to see if I could get the resources that I needed there. After third grade, I went to summer school to keep my English and math skills up. I even stayed after school then to get the one-on-one tutoring. I then went to a different elementary school in the district after third grade. This had more resources that I could use to my advantage. There were more kids who needed the help there. I was put into a smaller class for 3 years that was specifically focused on the reading and writing. There were about 9 kids in the first year, then there were 13 the next year, and 16 kids the last year. Every other day I got pulled out of class to do the Wilson program one-on-one. At the end of 6th grade, I finished the Wilson program. Now I'm in 8th grade and I feel amazing now that I don't need all the extra help. 2 of my favorite things to do is reading and writing. In fact, I'm writing my own book. But I have one friend who does have dyslexia. She didn't get the help that I had. People like her, like other children with dyslexia, need the help. Like me, she was in a small class. In these small classes, we were both bullied because we were different. My teachers in the first school didn't understand dyslexia and didn't advocate to help me. We need to train our teachers and show them that children with dyslexia need more help. No kid learns the same way. If more kids get more help early on, then we will have the skills to do better in high school and college. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to hear from Jim Signorelli. Jim, is a parent and an educator. All righty. I knew you were back there.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us. Thanks for inviting us to Albany. My name is Jim Signorelli. I'm the Dean of Students at the Marion McDowell Friends Schools Middle School. We are a Quaker school, K through 12, for students with learning disabilities. I'm here representing 17, 8th, 9th, 11th, and 12th graders who made the trip from Brooklyn today to represent the learning disabled community as student activists and teach you who they are and what they need. They know what they struggle with. They know what brings them down. What they want you to know about is what brings them up. We want to change the dialogue. They all know. They work harder than any normally developing peers. They work harder than everyone in this room. They understand what it is to work. Here's what brings them up. Small class sizes, extra teachers, different modalities teaching, multisensory education, different programs geared to the individual teacher. The colleagues that made the trip with me and the colleagues I'm representing, they teach to every student. Our teachers in the state of New York don't need to teach to a curriculum. They need to teach to our students. They need to know each and every student, how they learn, what are their strengths, what are their struggles. They'll talk about those struggles, but they want to know what brings them up. I also want to tell a story, and it goes something like this. Onek upon a time, yes, in my family, my daughter is learning disabled, and all of our stories start Onek upon a time, because she's not a very good speller. She's not a very good math student either. But when she was in public school, and she would come home every day, devastated, hair in front of her face, telling us that she was stupid, that she wasn't going to college. And we were beside ourselves as parents, as all of the parents in this room know. But Onek upon a time, my child, went to Marion McDowell and became a straight A student. She has 3 college credits as a junior because she went to a pre-college program in California as an artist. She's a brilliant artist. She's a voracious reader. She's a terrible speller. She can barely count, and she'll proudly tell you all of these things. If you are not learning disabled and you own a business, I say hire these learning disabled students out here because they're the hardest workers. All of us who are encumbered with linear thinking, one thing after another. Look to the learning disabled community. They're not encumbered with linear thinking. They see things we never can see. So this is our future. This is who's here. Thank you for having us. This is super important. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And next we're going to hear from one of my constituents, Noah Rosenfeld.
Hi, I'm Noah. No, I gotta go down. Oh, really? Oh, perfect. So my first experience with dyslexia was in first grade, and I just remember we would get these spelling tests, and I remember sitting there terrified that the teacher was going to call on me. I felt so inferior. I felt dumb. I felt stupid, and I remember I would leave the classroom. I would go to see the nurse's office. I'd pretend to be sick, or I'd run out, and I remember going home at night crying because I was so afraid that there was something wrong with me, that I was the problem, that I was stupid, that I was lazy. And then I got tested, and my whole family got tested, and then something miraculous happened. I was diagnosed with dyslexia, and after that, someone gave me a list of names of other people with dyslexia, famous people with dyslexia. And I looked at that list, and I was no longer the problem. I was no longer stupid. I was part of this amazing club of people who had been there before me and had achieved amazing, vital contributions to our society. And it was in that moment that I realized that I was no longer the problem, but I could be the solution to something. And it was just, it was a moment that I'll never forget. And since then, I have had to do a whole lot of work trying to compensate for dyslexia, and it was a really, really long and a really, really tough process. And to any new parents who out there who just found out that their kids are dyslexic, or new dyslexics out there, it is a really, really long and sometimes painful process filled with some tears. But once you get through it, you will have something that no one can ever take away from you. And I think that experience made me who I am today. Because in that experience, I learned what I could achieve, and now I just feel like I can achieve anything coming from that really long process. But thank you all for being here today. This is such an important issue, and we have so much more work to do, but this really does give me hope that something really powerful can happen in the future. So thank you, and let's lobby today.
Thank you, Noah. And next, we're going to hear from Christy Spisak. Christy is with Project Eye to Eye, and she's one of their diplomat advocates. Project Eye to Eye, if you don't know, is a large national mentoring program of people with dyslexia and ADHD, and do wonderful things. So we're very excited to hear from her.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. So I actually don't have dyslexia. I have a very strong family history of people that do have dyslexia, including my aunt who's severely dyslexic. And growing up, she is in her 60s now. Dyslexia wasn't widely known. And she was constantly having teachers that would just tell her time and time again that she was never going to amount to anyone. Teachers would tell my grandma, don't waste your time with her. And things like that are incredibly damaging. So I don't have dyslexia, but I've never been tested, so it's never been confirmed nor denied. But I do have ADHD, OCD, and pretty severe anxiety. But there's surprisingly a lot of overlap between all of my diagnoses and dyslexia. My biggest struggle growing up was reading and processing. Actually, when I was diagnosed with my ADHD, my mom originally knew that there was kind of an issue going on because since I had OCD, I would reread the same paragraph over and over and over again. And so my doctor and my parents originally, they thought that this was just a compulsion. But in actuality, I was rereading the same paragraph over and over and over again because I wasn't able to focus on what I was reading. I wasn't able to process the words I was reading. So this was problematic. So when I was a sophomore in high school, my mom took me back to the doctor and explained what was going on, and that's when I was diagnosed with ADHD. It also takes me a lot longer to do things. As most people here have already said, but definitely reading, processing, the length of time it takes me to do things. These are a lot of the issues that I struggle with, and a lot of ones that are very similar to dyslexia. What I really want to tell all the legislators, educators, teachers to know, that whether someone has a label or not, everyone learns differently in some way, shape, or form. And our education system needs to be more accommodating for people who learn differently. Because my allies are really the ones who have gotten me to this point today, and we need more teachers that are on the side of their students. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. And next we're going to hear from Moran Eisenberger, who's a parent and an advocate, and works with Everyone Reading, or she's on their board. Thank you, Marion. She's here today with her daughter.
Hi, everyone. So nice to be here. My name is Moran Eisenberger Brown. I am a corporate attorney, and I'm currently the general counsel at a real estate private equity in New York City. I know that sounds very fancy. But if we met for coffee, which is the way that I like to meet, I would just tell you that my name is Moran, and I would probably talk on and on about my daughter, Elle Brown, who's turning 11 next month, May 19th, and who is the absolute light of my life. There are so many strengths, I can't even list them. Elle is kind and bright, super observant. My husband always says she's going to make a great jury consultant because she reads rooms and reads people. She's visually gifted with a photographic memory. And most importantly to her, she is super athletic. If you give her a ball, there's nothing she can't do with it. But Elle is also dyslexic, and which means that despite her very high IQ and her exceptional thinking skills, language, reading and writing, is a little harder. I have listened to all your stories today. Thank you for sharing, enlightening, and educating all of us. I want you all to know that we hear you loud and clear. We are listening and we hear you. Elle is lucky, very, very lucky. We were able to diagnose Elle's dyslexia at the end of kindergarten year, which is very early. We did a lot of work, consulted with many people, and we're able to find the school that meets Elle's learning style. I hear that a lot of you have not been successful. If there's anything I can do to help, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to share and learn together. Today, Elle's in 5th grade at the Windward School. She's learning and she's thriving, and she's a straight A student. I believe her lowest score this year was a 95, or maybe we even got something in the 80s, God forbid. The gentleman from Caledonian, as he says, these are kids that actually dig deep and work really hard, and I am beyond proud that Elle has learned how to work. But many dyslexic students are not as lucky as Elle. We know, as the lovely lady mentioned, that 1 out of 5 students, 1 out of 5 is dyslexic. These young dyslexic souls find themselves in classrooms struggling with teachers who are not prepared to teach them, with administrators who don't really know what to do with them, and with fellow students who are just confused as to why their classmates are having such a hard time. And the truth is that we are failing our children. We are failing. Maya Angelou, who is a personal hero of mine and a goddess, said, "When you know better, you do better." And we know better. We know that dyslexic students need explicit instruction and a layered curriculum in small classrooms with invested teachers to learn strategies and skills necessary to reach their academic potential. We know that dyslexic students need extra help to develop self-confidence in the ability to achieve their own success and meet their potential. We know that dyslexic students need to understand their learning differences so that they can become effective self-advocates and continue to seek out education and knowledge and propel themselves to higher ground. We know all of that, and we even know how to do it. And so now that we know better, we must do better. In fact, everyone in this room, we should unite and demand that our representatives and our schools do better by our children. This is our right. So on Dyslexia Awareness Day and Adoption Day, congratulations, I applaud Assemblywoman Jo Anne Simon, who has been a tireless advocate for the learning disabled. Really appreciate that, Joanne. I hear all these brave warriors who spoke today. Keep up the fight. We will make them listen to us. We will make them address what it is we need. And I urge you all to stay committed to the cause. I certainly am staying committed. And together, we can do better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Moran. And next we will be hearing from Dolores Connors. Dolores? No? Do we not have Dolores? Oh, there we are. Okay. Welcome.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I believe it's not afternoon, it's close to afternoon. But I just want to share that I'm here on maybe a different playing field. You see, my name is Dolores Connors, and I'm a teacher. I'm a reading teacher. I'm also a dyslexia therapist. But let me back up and talk about being a reading teacher for a few seconds. I love teaching reading. There is nothing more intimate than reading a book, than being able to sympathize and have empathy for a character that you don't know. You see, books give us something. They give us themes, and they tell us how to deal with life. So I know that the right sentence at the right time can save someone's life. So I promote reading for everyone. And as I watch those children who are avid readers, who love to read, I'm constantly thinking about the child who's struggling, who cannot read. And that's what brought me here today. You see, you understand that this place is powerful. When you join this center, this unique building of people who make policies and who push things along with people who promote education, and I'm so happy that the Department of Education is here. When you bridge that partnership, powerful things can happen. And we all need the support. We all have to come together. I am so proud of everything that you're doing. For 3 years, I've been in attendance, and this is just one of the biggest, specialist things on my calendar throughout the year. And I just want us to continue to move forward. Reading is powerful, and it's special, and everyone can learn to read. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dolores. And next, Barbara Vivolo will be speaking. Barbara's where are you, Barbara? There she is. Barbara is also well known as the mom of Gina, who is our panelist this morning. So props to Barbara.
So I wrote this whole entire thing, but I don't think I need to use it. I just want to say thank you, Jo Anne Simon, so much for your support. I just want to say that, all our assemblymen, all our leaders really need to listen to these stories and all the children that, start without them being diagnosed and then being diagnosed. Like you saw Gina, she went from not reading and not writing in 6th grade. What does that mean? That means she got pushed through from 3rd to 4th, from 4th to 5th, from 5th to 6th, moving along in the public school system, not learning to read. But I picked it up. And then New York State Department of Ed was in trouble because I did not let them. I went for it, and least restrictive environment is another issue that we need to talk about, because her least restricted environment was not a contained classroom within the public school system. Her least restricted environment is in the Kildonan school, where she belongs, in a school or in an appropriate education, an appropriate public school education. I would have loved to not packed my child's stuffed animals at 11 years old and sent her away from my home. I would have loved to have her presence at my dinner table every single night. She is 14 now, off and running, making her own decisions. I have to parent her differently, but you know what? I would have loved to have the opportunity to not send her to a boarding school. But since I did, she's growing. You could see she's thriving. She's loving life. But she was not loving life. She was pretty broken. And I brought her to the school, the appropriate school that knows how to teach children with dyslexia. Our public school system really has to learn how to teach our children with dyslexia. It is so important because then Gina becomes a great taxpayer in New York State, right? Otherwise, she would have been a burden on the system. And we don't want burdens on our system. I want New York State laws to protect the children that don't have moms like me. I want them to protect the children that don't have families. I want the teachers to be protected by the New York State guidelines and memorandum so that they can protect these children that don't have moms like us, to be able to put them in, private schools or tutoring. That's what I want for New York State. I want to see children that don't have support get the support from New York State. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. And next is Isaac Rosenthal. Isaac? Isaac is a student and the son of Debbie Meyer, supermother.
My name is Isaac Rosenthal, and I'm 12 years old, and I live in New York City. This is my dyslexia experience. Even though my doctor signed a form that I was colorblind, my pre-K teachers in public school were concerned that I didn't recognize colors. They were not concerned that I didn't recognize rhymes. I started kindergarten in a popular public school choice. By the end of first grade, my teachers weren't concerned. The school psychologist described dyslexia, but didn't say it. My parents said dyslexia runs in the family. School officials shrugged. The school put me in an ICT class. The next few years, there's social studies and science were experimental, and I learned normally. Math was easy for me. There were manipulatives. We drew models, and there was direct instruction with practice. Nobody taught me how to read or write. My parents got me a tutor and sent me to Camp Dunneback. I started learning and realized I could learn, but I wanted to hang out with my friends after school. Most of them were still learning faster than I was. Reading was easy for most of them. I was a mess. Competitive swimming, running, and triathlons were my outlet for stress and showed me how to make progress. I started visiting dyslexia schools where the kids and teachers understood me, but there were no rooms at schools for dyslexia for kids with learning disabilities. Leonard was expanding and offered me a seat. The high demand shows that we need more teachers ready to teach dyslexic kids. If they were in public schools, they could save the government. They could save the government a lot of money, and if I was still a mess, I would cost the government a lot of money.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you very much. And next we have Kathleen Daly, who is a parent.
Hello. I might have to put this down a little. Thank you for coming here today to listening to our experiences. We're here to make the system work for our children's children and future generations. Most of us have had to advocate fiercely for our children already. My name is Kathleen Daly, and you've already heard my daughter's story of how the Wilson program helped her develop her skills to navigate the school system successfully. Her father and I are very proud of her. I would like to talk to you briefly today about the testing accommodations associated with dyslexia. Most students with dyslexia have extended time, separate location, tests read to them, directions read to them, and these accommodations are essential. They need the extra time to process what is on the page, and they need someone to read to them what is on the page. My concern is that when it comes to the state tests, all of the material cannot be read to them. Specifically, I'm referring to the ELA, formerly known as the Common Core State Exams. Although her IEP stated that she could have the tests read, the state exams are exempt from this. So in elementary school, when Eileen was reading below grade level, she was expected to read passages on the exam which were above grade level. My question is, how do these exams measure the reading comprehension of a student whose disability is reading and processing? Is the goal of the exam to test her disability? Or is the goal of the exam to test her comprehension and intelligence? Eileen has never taken these exams because of this inherent discrimination against her disability. I would request the State Ed Department re-examine the purpose and intent of the accommodation and of the exam. Thank you.
We are about, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people left. So we're running a little late. I'd like to have everybody have an opportunity to speak if that is okay with you. I don't want to cut us off. I just wanted to also thank, Deborah, did you want to say something? Deborah Rafferty is one of the founding members of Decoding Dyslexia in New York, and I can see that she looks like she's about to move. So come on up and say a few words. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, too, particularly for all the work you did in getting the memorandum passed. My son, who is right there, that's probably going to kill me now, is 13. And about 8 years ago, he was diagnosed with dyslexia. And when I studied and learned all I could about it, I went into the IEP meeting going, oh my goodness, we found out how we can help my son. And then I went in and they told me, dyslexia is not real, it doesn't exist. And I just couldn't believe it. We had all this research. This school had so many caring, wonderful, smart teachers, but they couldn't help him to read. Pretty much the most primary job you have in your education setting besides keeping them safe. It was only until we found this reading center that's about 15 minutes from here that he drove an hour to the reading center after school. He did the instruction, the OG instruction. We drove an hour back. There's still French fries under my seat from eating on the way there. But we saw instant success in this program. Thank you, Roberta. And it saved him. That reading instruction saved him. But the people that are here, I feel, are the really lucky ones because there's people that don't have somebody to rally for them. They don't have a supporter. So I think when we're reaching out to meet with the policymakers or New York State Ed, share your story and make sure that you always, the help that you've gotten in the past, that you pay it forward as well too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deb. All righty, Laura Cavallari, all the way from Staten Island.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Laura Cavallari. I'm dyslexic. I knew I was dyslexic because my mother was tested back in 1950 down on Skimmerhorn Street in Brooklyn. For a year and a half, her and her twin sister were screened for their dyslexia. So when I came along in the 70s in school, I knew I was dyslexic because of her. We both share the natural talent of art, and we're creative. My brother and sister do not have it. So I'm a high school dropout, also substance abuse user to self-medicate the pain. I wasn't going to have kids. I was 36 years old because I knew I was going to pass on the gene. I wasn't going to have kids. I was 36, time clock passing, year 2000. They have to know about dyslexia now. 2004, Laws starts kindergarten, and they don't. And I knew Laws was dyslexic right off the bat. I could see it in him. But like the parent over there, Brenda, talking about dysgraphia, I did not see the dyslexia in my son, James. So let's backtrack to Laws. Laws got help. I gave him Linda Moo Bell in the 2nd grade. Then he was in a small school, so it was 2 classes per grade. One with the ICT class, the other one was the honors. Laws was in the honors classes. In there, that environment is so encouraging that by 6th grade, he was using dragon dictation to write because he was handing in 1-page paragraphs. So when he used dragon, he was handing in 2 pages. Teacher says now, wow, now we got something to correct. Now he could see his work. 7th grade, decertified from his IEP. I just wanted to make sure. I got him evaluated, private evaluated in the 9th grade. He's still a classic dyslexic with above average high IQ. At that same time, I got his brother James tested too, and that's when I found out, get on the ball and help James, because his self-esteem was crushed. And again, now Lawrence, he's graduating this year. He's going to be graduating with the Advanced Regents Diploma minus the foreign language, but he's in the honors classes, and he's got scholarships going left and right, and he's doing electrical coming out of a ICT class. So I had Lars stand in front of our Community Education Council, District 31, and say, he is the first dyslexic student graduating from a public school with honors. All right? So I says to Lars, because we did a duel, not to make him nervous, and I made him do it on the spot. I didn't even tell him I was going to make him speak, and as well as he did. Lars's comment was, I said, what would make your school experience different? If I knew the other dyslexics in my class, we could have helped each other. We could have supported each other. So when I tell you now there's not enough training right now for the teachers, by God, let the other dyslexics see each other. As us as adults, we have to come out of the closet. We have to break the fear for them. We have to show them that it was hurtful and it should not happen again to them. My guidance counselor told me, don't worry, you'll get married. That wasn't going to work for my two boys. So again, right now, come out of the closet, share the strength, because that'll all come along with training the teachers. But if other dyslexics see each other, they can help each other with the pens and the Grammarly and the read and write and Tabara. Thank you, everybody. Keep the power strong. Oh, wait. One last thing. This right here, it's ahead of time. Build the field, and they will come. Society of Dyslexia was created by 4 dyslexics and 1 mental ill from Staten Island. We're hoping that this would turn into chapters. Look for your local people that's in the community, our bakers, our mechanics, our lawyers, and so forth. Make them know that you're part of the community. Be proud of it. Let us see chapters. But like I say, just start it so everybody start getting ready to make the society big.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, Crystal McCannon, and she will be followed by Angel McCannon. Crystal? Thank you, Jack. It's great having you.
First off, I want to say thank you to you guys, because until today, my daughter and I hadn't met another dyslexic. So it's kind of amazing for her. It's amazing for us because it is hidden in our schools. We've struggled. She was in a private school. She's 13 now. She was in a private school, Christian school, and we knew that there was a problem, there was an issue. And so we got her, I asked to have her tested. They wanted her tested for ADD, and I demanded that she get tested for dyslexia, which was something out of the box. And she was tested, and then our school couldn't help her anymore. So I had to put her in public school. So I put her in the public school, and that was the worst decision I ever made. It's been nothing but a battle. I'm called the iron-fisted mom. When I go to the district building, you just hear doors shut when I walk through the door. It's complete frustration, but we also have a lot of great people in our district, people that care about my daughter, and one of them is our superintendent. Our superintendent has a brother-in-law who has dyslexia, so he knows rightfully what they struggle with every day. There is no help for her in our district. She's in a 15-1 classroom. She does have accommodations. Do I think it helps her? No. They did offer to send her to a boarding school, and I turned it down because I want to have her at home. A little bit of selfishness there. I'm sacrificing her education for her, being home with her mom and her family. But it is what it is, and that's the decision I've made. So with that said, I thank you all for all of your help with this, and hopefully I can be a better part of her education. Thanks.
My name is Angel McCannon, and I have phonological dyslexia. And most people ask me, how do I deal with it? I deal with it by not letting it get in my way of my education. I don't worry about it most of the time, but when I was in 3rd grade, some people found out about it when I did not want them to find out about it, and they started bullying me about it. And that was one of the things that kind of is hard for a dyslexic to go through. And I can read well, but when I read, it's kind of like some people trying to read an alphabet soup. That is how I read. And when you guys have some dyslexics that are reading to the point where it's hard for them to read, you can't try to force them to try to read onto that. And some of my teachers say, Angel, you should read this, but I can't do that. It's hard for me as a dyslexic to be reading the way that they try to get me to read. And I'm in a Read 180 program, and with that Read 180 program, it's not good for a dyslexic at all. It is just a program that people try to say, this is how dyslexics should be able to read. It doesn't help us at all. And I do feel alone, but I don't. I know there's other people out there that have dyslexia, that have the situations that I do, and have the class. Some classes have the same Read 180 program, but some classes don't. And it's kind of one way that is a reading type of, I don't know how to put that in, reading type of the school district that I'm with, they don't know how to teach me. They don't know what I need to learn about. They don't know what my curriculum is. They don't know any way that that I can be taught. But that is all that I have for you guys today. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. You were wonderful. We all learned a lot from listening to you. Next, we will hear from Linda Martin, who's an educator and advocate.
My name is Linda Martin, and I have dyslexia. I'm so in hopes that there are representatives of the State Ed Department here, because this is such a passion. I grew up in New York State. I'm from Central New York. I'm balancing out the state here. I direct a dyslexia center that's free. We train people with IMSLEP certification. It's free. The children have to come after school. Any state ed people here, I sure hope you've been listening. I grew up in the 50s. Well, I went to school in the 50s in a very small rural school in Central New York, very small. We had a guidance counselor, back to the memorandum, well beyond his years in knowledge. He took those 5 out of our little class who he knew were quite intelligent but were struggling, And 3 days a week, for half a day each day, we did other things. When I got to college, we had to take a test because I went for speech path and went to a music school where a lot of the students struggled academically in the reading and the writing. And again, that 20% of us got told, you can't read. And we had to go for special sessions, first semester, freshman year, every Saturday morning, all morning. But saved my life because I got to learn how to learn in college. In high school and in elementary school, my brother played outside. I worked and worked and worked. All of you families here know what this is about. I have 2 masters. Hard work, hard work. But what's still happening in this state, back when it was the top of education, we're not the top anymore. Please listen to these families and these children who are saying, we aren't being taught. Our teachers don't know how to teach us. Our guidance counselors don't know how to find out what our problem is. We can't wait until our children hit the 3rd grade wall to test them for something that we know has existed forever. We know how to deal with it. We work with children at the center, teach them the basics. They go from 2/3 of the day in the resource room to being honor roll students and college graduates. This isn't rocket science. This isn't new news. Our education department needs to start looking at the 20% of our population who have as many needs and as many rights as every other child in our school. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you very much. Okay, next is Ellen Jenkins, and then after Ellen, we will be hearing from Adam Kern. Ellen, are you still here? Okay, good.
Hello, my name is Ellen Jenkins. I am from Pelham, New York, which is lower Westchester County. And in 2000, I was told that my son, that was 7 years old at the time, would never learn to read. You heard it. He would never learn to read. This was the reading specialist that I trusted telling me this. That day, I left school on a mission. That son, now 24, learned to read in 4 weeks by Linda Mood Bell. I wasted an entire school year, his 2nd grade year, of them telling me this. And then he went there, and in 4 weeks, he was reading at 3rd grade level, and he was in 2nd grade. When given proper instruction, teachers can teach these kids. And thanks to Linda Mood Bell and Dunnebeck, when he was in 5th grade, he learned to read, spell, and comprehend, well above his grade level. What is the price of learning to read when you're dyslexic? Well, for us, it was about $22,000. And that was in 2001. By giving my son a generalized label on his IEP of non-verbal LD, it allowed the school to do nothing specific to help him his entire school education. I don't call that free and appropriate. Children with dyslexia need specific reading instruction, and they need it early. We have to stop avoiding the word dyslexia in public schools. And 18 years later, I'm here because my mission hasn't stopped. But the public schools need to take this, and they need to work with it and use the word and help the kids. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Adam Kern. I'm in 7th grade and I am dyslexic. In kindergarten, I was showing signs of not being able to read very early off. And come 1st grade, my teacher would pull me out of the classroom during free time to work on my reading, and I was not making any progress. By the end of 1st grade, my parents, who have always trusted me, have always had faith in me, no matter what, they knew something was wrong. They knew that I wasn't just being lazy or whatever those teachers were telling them, that there was something that was not quite right. And they tested me, and I got tested for dyslexia and diagnosed. And throughout my 2nd grade year, I was constantly asking, but I'm dyslexic, I know this, but what do I do about that? And of course, them never giving up on me were already a few steps in front of me. They had already applied me for a school that specialized in teaching dyslexics called Windward. And beginning in 3rd grade, I was able to go to Windward and went there 3rd through 5. And because of that, it saved me. If I had not been able to go to Windward, I would not be here today. I would not be standing here in front of you talking about what I have, because I would not be proud of it. But the only reason I was able to go to Windward was because my parents never gave up on me and were able to afford it. Everyone can do whatever they want as long as they're given the opportunity to do it. Getting tested, going to school for dyslexia, it's costly. And if 20% of our population is dyslexic, and not a lot of those people have the money to get tested and to go to school for dyslexia, how can we help? What can we do now? And that's why I'm here. I want to change laws to make diagnosing dyslexia more affordable and implement it into the public schools so that it's part of the public school curriculum so you don't have to get tested, because it's there already. Everyone is treated as if they have dyslexia because you might as well be. If you're not dyslexic, it gives you a little more because you're getting a more solid understanding of what you're reading, and you're an even better reader. So that's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Yay, Adam. Thank you. Okay, just a few more people. And I have to hop, so Susanna's going to take over from me. But Cassie Ulwick? Okay.
Good afternoon. I always say that we are always in this together, and today's event really goes to show that we really are in this together. And how amazing is it to just have this last speaker, I don't know how old he was, but here we are in a room full of adults, a room full of lawmakers, people that can really make the difference, and it takes that boy to bring up the one subject that no one in this room has actually talked about the entire morning: money. How much money have the parents in this room spent, and luckily have had the ability, or whatever they've done, whatever they've had to sell, or whatever 1985 cars they've had to drive because they're putting their money into their son and daughter's education. Let me just share this. When my son, Jack, who I'm so blessed that it somehow worked out, that's another saying of mine, everything always works out for me. Please feel free and steal that and say it every day, because that will then become your truth. Everything always works out for me. Please say it and adopt it. So somehow that worked out for us and for my son Jack, but here's the story, and I'm gonna make it really quick. Jack, at 6 years old, it's like going for an MRI. You go, why does my knee hurt? Well, geez, thanks for the MRI. Now I know it's all the soft tissue tears, right? You don't see it in an x-ray. We finally realized that Jack was dyslexic. At 6, I found somehow, again, everything always works out for me, on the computer, nesty.com. 2 columns, here are your child's strengths, here are his challenges. And I read them to Jack because he could not read at 6. B and the letter, no symbol. I mean, parents, you know it. But I read it. I said, Jack, is that true? Are all these statements true? And he said, yes. And here's the crazy part about it. I didn't even say a word to him. He looks at me in the face and says, Mom, when they finally teach me how to read, am I going to lose all the good stuff? At 6. This is what we're dealing with, people. I don't want to say dealing with. This is what we have. This is the resource that our state of New York has. And we can either spend money on training teachers or allowing these children to go to these schools. My son deserves a free, public, and appropriate education. And least restrictive, yes, I'd like to say it again. The least restrictive environment for my son is with people, his peers. Those are the dyslexic children that he can thrive with, he can feel wonderful with. My first day when we went to the Kildone Institute to see whether or not it would be the right place for him, I said, Jack, we're driving down. What would you like to get out of today? Mom, I'd like to know I could actually make some friends. Your children want friends. Yeah, they like to read, but they want people like them, and they want to be themselves. They want to own it. I went to pick him up. My foot wasn't even in the door. I said, Jack, how was it? I made 8 new friends. I got to go here. Because they're just like me. They think like me. They know me. We have the opportunity to make changes in this government, in this state. And I'll bring up money right now. Lawmakers, we can either spend the money right now and educate these children, or the statistic down the end road, that pipeline where they could possibly end up. Do you want to pay it now and educate them and unleash them on our society where we need these creative thinkers with the problems we've got right now, or do you just want to house and feed them? Let's spend the money now on these children and give these people the ability to become all that they are. We need them. We need them to be educated, not just to learn how to read. Thank you.
Hi, so Diane from Highland. No, Diane? Okay, so Kevin from Kildonan School.
Thank you. And what is this young man's name who spoke before? Adam. So just like Cassie was saying, Adam distilled and expressed the heart of all the frustration you hear today, the problem you hear today. And I want to thank Assemblymember Simon. I want to thank Deborah Rafferty and Barbara Vivolo of Decoding Dyslexia. I want to thank Marion Waldman, who spoke before and writes a really inspiring blog that's called Teach My Kid to Read. All of you for engaging Kildonan and getting us out of our beautiful little corner of Dutchess County and part of this larger movement for what Adam is talking about, to make it so that this kind of education and this kind of empowerment is not premised on having a lot of money and having a lot of legal wherewithal. And there is another way to do this. And on the legislative end, all of you and Assemblymember Simon are part of that movement and leading that movement. And the charter school in Staten Island devoted to dyslexia is showing another way. And Kildonan is now part of a third way, another way, where it's not about families having to sue school districts. It's not about having to wait for the money and the training to come through. And so I do want to mention just one such way that Kildonan is involved in. It's in central New York State, and Kimberly Moore, who's here, who runs the Leatherstocking Tutoring Center and is involved at SUNY Oneonta. Under her leadership and under her invitation, Kildonan and she are proposing to a combined school district in central New York State where a superintendent, their board of ed, they're inviting and encouraging a proposal whereby Kildonan would take over a closed public school elementary building, train public school teachers in the area. Kildonan staff would learn from public schools things about speech and language pathology, OT, and PT. It would be an exchange of training and information. And the school district, under this proposal and under this plan, would be funding students to come and receive a Kildonan education in the public school building, remain part of their local communities and the local public school, remain part of their athletic teams, remain part of their performing arts, stay in their community where you wouldn't have to go away to school. All the professionals, private and public, would be enriched by it. It would be a collaboration. It would be teamwork. It wouldn't be antagonistic. And we look forward to next spring at the 4th Dyslexia Awareness Day for New York State, announcing that it's rolling, and we'll open our doors so you can see this other way. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kevin.